You are 8 years old and you are standing in a line with your mother outside a bakery in Buenos Aires. The line is 40 people long. The price of bread has changed twice since you left the apartment. Your mother is holding a plastic bag full of pesos. Bills with so many zeros they look like a child's drawing of what money should be. She counted them this morning. 1.4 million pesos. Enough for 4 loaves. By the time you reach the counter, it will buy 3. By tomorrow, 2. The zeros are decorative. A man ahead of you starts shouting. Not at the baker. At the air. At the country? Your mother pulls you close and covers your ear, but you hear him say, devaluación. And even at 8, you understand. Not the economics. The feeling. The feeling of holding something in your hands and watching it become less while you stand still. That night, your father sits at the table with a calculator and a newspaper. He is an electrical engineer earning a salary that was respectable 4 months ago and is a joke today. He is trying to decide whether to convert his pesos at the black market rate on Cali, Florida, or wait for a new government peg. He does not know. Nobody knows. You watch him do math that has no answer, and you make a decision you will spend 40 years executing. You will learn how money works. Not how to make it. How it works. The pipes and valves and pressure gauges that determine whether a currency holds or collapses. Whether a family eats bread or stands in a line watching the price climb. This is your life at every rank of central banking. From the student who reads Keynes to the governor who sets the rate that moves the world. Every decimal point. Every press conference. Every night you lie awake knowing a number you chose today will become someone else's breadline tomorrow. Level 1, the student. You leave Argentina on a scholarship. University of Chicago. You arrive in January with a suitcase and a coat not rated for -18. You study monetary theory, Friedman, the quantity theory, the Phillips curve. You read papers about interest rate transmission and feel recognition. The equations describe the thing that ate your childhood. You are the best in your cohort, not the smartest. The most afraid, fear of the line, fear of the zeros, fear of your father's paralysis at the kitchen table. Thesis, Credibility Dynamics in Disinflation Programs, Lessons from the Southern Cone. 188 pages. Your advisor calls it one of the best in 20 years. You apply to MIT, full funding. You leave Chicago the way you left Buenos Aires, with a suitcase and a conviction that the answer is in the next room. Level 2, The Economist. PhD from MIT. You join the IMF in Washington. Grade A11. Salary, $78,000, tax exempt. You share an office with a German and an Indian. You argue about Taylor rules over bad coffee. First mission, Argentina. You fly to Buenos Aires for the first time in 6 years. You present recommendations at the Banco Central, tighten the base, float the rate, cut transfers. The deputy governor listens. He says your work is technically interesting. IMF language for, we will do none of this. You walk past the bakery afterward. The line is shorter. The bread is more expensive. Different precedent, different peso, same physics. You stand on the sidewalk and feel the distance between your dissertation and the woman holding a plastic bag. The distance is the width of a career you have not yet had. Your risk, irrelevance. You write papers cited by papers, read by economists who write more papers. The loop is closed. The bread line is outside the loop. Level 3, the advisor. A central bank in a mid-sized European economy recruits you as senior advisor. You are in the room now. 7 people around an oval table every 6 weeks deciding whether to raise, cut, or hold. The discussion lasts 4 hours. The vote takes 11 seconds. You build the forecasting models. You calculate the output gap, the neutral rate, inflation expectations, and bond spreads. You present scenarios, raise and 14,000 people lose their jobs. Hold, and 2.1 million households pay 8% more for groceries. 14,000 jobs, or 2.1 million grocery bills. The committee votes. You do not vote. You are the advisor, close enough to see, far enough to not carry the weight. But you built the map. The roads go where you drew them. Income, 142,000 euros. You read the financial press every morning and can feel the sentences before they are published because you know what the committee decided and the press does not. That asymmetry sits on your chest like a second heartbeat. Level 4, the deputy governor. Appointed deputy governor. Your mother calls from Buenos Aires. She does not understand what a deputy governor does. You say, I help decide interest rates. She says, like the bank? You say yes. You do not say, the bank whose decisions in 1989 turned your family's savings into confetti. You vote now. Raise, cut, hold. Your hand goes up and 14,000 people keep or lose their jobs, and you cannot see their faces because the faces are inside a model, inside a spreadsheet, inside a room with no windows. First press conference. 17 cameras. You say, data dependent 4 times? You say nothing about the breadline. Your words move bond yields. A misplaced adjective costs a government $200 million in borrowing costs. You learn to speak in a language designed to contain no information while appearing to contain all of it. You marry a constitutional law professor named Arena. She understands institutions. She understands you cannot discuss what you know. Dinner exists in the narrow band between public and classified. You talk about the children, the garden. You do not mention that the rate decision announced Thursday will determine whether the garden center where you buy tomato plants survives the spring. Level 5, the governor. Appointed governor. Handshake with the prime minister. A speech you wrote yourself because the communications team's version sounded like it was generated by a machine trained on other machines. Your photograph is in newspapers. Your sentences are parsed by algorithms that trade on the millisecond differential between your words and expectations. You say moderately instead of modestly, and the currency moves 0.6% in 9 seconds. $4.3 billion in volume triggered by an adverb. Salary, 320,000 euros. You cannot own equities, trade currencies, or accept gifts worth more than 50 euros. Powerful enough to move markets, prohibited from profiting by a cent. You cut rates during a slowdown. The Prime Minister calls to thank you. You do not take the call. Independence is the only asset a central bank has. The moment you take the call, the bank is political. The moment the bank is political, the currency is Argentina. Your mother dies. You fly to Buenos Aires. In her apartment, the same one from the inflation, you find a plastic bag of old pesos in a drawer. The ones with the zeros. She kept them, not as money, as evidence, proof that it happened, that the numbers were real even when the value was not. You take the bag home. You put it in the bottom drawer of your desk. Every 6 weeks, before the rate decision, you open the drawer and look at the bills and remember what happens when the machinery fails. You attend your first G20 finance meeting, a room in Osaka with 20 central bankers, their deputies, and a silence so dense it has its own pressure system. The Fed chair sits across from you. He speaks in sentences that move $24 trillion of global GDP. You speak in sentences that move a fraction of that, but the weight is identical because the weight is not measured in dollars. It is measured in the distance between your words and someone's ability to buy bread. That distance never changes. Only the scale changes. You develop a habit. After every rate decision, you walk home. Not for exercise, for calibration. You pass the shops and the cafes and the construction sites and you look at the prices in the windows and the cranes on the skyline and you try to feel, physically, in your chest, whether the number you chose that morning was right. The models say yes. The models always say yes. The sidewalk is the only peer review that matters. Level 6, the crisis. A bank fails. Then another. The interbank market freezes. The machinery you have spent your life studying is not a theory anymore. It is a fire. You are holding the hose. You cut rates to zero in 3 emergency meetings over 11 days. You launch a bond buying program. 120 billion euros, created from nothing by a vote of 7 people in a room with no windows. You are printing money, digitally, creating currency to buy time for banks to stabilize, governments to act, fire to burn to embers. The press calls you a savior. The opposition calls you a counterfeiter. An economist you respect argues your program will cause inflation that punishes the poor. The people you are trying to protect? He is not wrong. He is not right. He operates in the clean world of models. You operate in the filthy world of collapsing systems where every option destroys something and inaction destroys everything. You do not sleep for 4 nights. Your doctor prescribes something. You refuse. You need the insomnia. It is the only proof that what you are doing matters enough to prevent rest. Asset prices rise. Housing rises. The wealthy get wealthier. The young cannot afford apartments. You held the system together, and the cost was paid by people who did not vote for you and cannot name you and will spend 10 years wondering why rent doubled. You know why. You signed the paper. Level 7, the legacy. Your term ends. The press writes retrospectives. Steady hand. Architect of recovery. You read them in your new office at a university. Endowed chair, 280,000 euros, 1 seminar per semester, lectures attended by central bankers the way priests attend sermons by a retired pope. You write a memoir. Careful. Measured. Lawyer reviewed. You describe the crisis in language that is accurate and bloodless. You do not write about the breadline or the bag of zeros or the drawer. These belong to a person. The memoir is about an institution. The institution does not have a childhood. Your daughter is 26. She works at an NGO in Nairobi. She told you once that your bond buying program increased wealth inequality in Europe by 11%. She showed you her paper. The methodology was sound. You said, the counterfactual was worse. She said, that is what powerful people always say. You did not respond. Not because she was wrong. Because she was using the same voice you used at 28 at the Banco Central. Certain. Principled. Untouched by the weight of the chair. The end. You are 61. Late. Campus quiet. On your desk there is a drawer. In the drawer there is a plastic bag. In the bag, pesos. Old ones. Dead ones. Bills with zeros that meant everything and then nothing. You spread them on the desk. 1.4 million pesos. The number your mother counted in 1991. Enough for 4 loaves that became 3 that became 2. The paper is soft from age. The ink faded. They are not money. They are a recording. A fossilized scream from a country that forgot how to count. You spent your career making sure the numbers behaved. And they did. Mostly. For most people. For a while. But you have always known, that the machinery is held together by something thinner than math. Belief. The collective decision of millions to trust that the number on the bill means what it says. And that trust is not a formula. It is a mood. And moods change at 3 o'clock by decree, by panic, by a man shouting in a line. You put the pesos back. Close the drawer. Turn off the light. Somewhere, an 8-year-old is standing in a line with his mother. Different country. Different currency. Same zeros. Same feeling. You could not save him. You are not sure you saved anyone. You are sure you tried. And you are sure that trying is not the same as succeeding, and that the distance between them is measured in bread.